Do you want to become successful? Do you want to hear from real life stories of real people who were able to make things happen? Today, I'm very, very much excited because I'm very honored. I'm very blessed to have Steve Sims with me on my LinkedIn Live. If you don't know who Steve Sims is, I'm gonna give a very brief introduction about him. But if you don't know me yet, let me introduce myself. My name is Wandalin Tan Kalupig. I am the 2021 number one most influential Filipino on LinkedIn, also the first Filipina LinkedIn Live broadcaster. I use this platform because I want to inspire people, help them understand that what's possible for me is possible for you. What is possible for all my guests is possible for you too. So before I bring Steve on stage, let me give a brief introduction because this is he's so much. So I'm so excited. So Steve Sims is the maverick entrepreneur, experienced magician, and mastermind behind Bluefish, the game-changing concierge service. He was born and raised in Eastern London, and he shattered the boundaries of his humble beginnings, embarking on an audacious quest to redefine what is possible. He is a visionary pioneer, and he has proven that you can do whatever you want and turn your dreams into reality. His remarkable journey serves as a reminder that audacity, perseverance, and unyielding passion are the keys to unlocking a world of untold possibilities. Brace yourself because today we're gonna go on an adventure with Steve. Steve, I cannot thank you enough for saying yes.
This is great. I think that's one of the most fun introductions I've ever had. So I'm a little bit excited and a little bit nervous.
I chat GPT that. Chat GPT is like, which is the most interesting part. But before, maybe Steve, you can tell a story in terms of, I remember one of the things I read about you. You actually dropped out of school and then you went to Hong Kong to, because you decided you want to be rich and then you find a job. Then you got fired the next day. Can you tell more about that story? Because I always believe the humble beginnings is always important to hear.
Yeah, humble beginnings are one thing, but I also think an aggravated mindset is better. Um, as I grew up in East London and just outside of London, I didn't really have A, any opportunities, B, any direction, and C, any successful friends to mentor me or look up to. So I didn't have any of these things. So I was a very aggravated youth trying to work out, well, hang on, where's my life going? And I had all of these questions populating my little brain. So that aggravation, and I always pick on the word aggravation because that creates momentum. If we're aggravated about something, we do something about it. And so I tried to find a way of surrounding myself with people that I wanted to be like, whether they were,
Oh.
and in the early stages, and you can probably, agree to this, when you're a kid and you're 16 years old, the
Uh-huh.
idea of success is money. And you
Yeah, I
just you
know.
just want to be when you're a kid, I just want to be rich. I just want loads of money
Mm,
because you think that's the answer to everything. So when I was young,
exactly.
I wanted to hang around with rich people that had lots of money because I didn't. And I tried getting jobs and I got the chance of a stockbroker's job in Hong Kong. I took the job, landed, was no good, got fired, and just kept on this aggravation of how can I surround myself. I ended up working on a nightclub door in Wan Chai, Hong Kong. And
Hmm.
I was just watching how people that had rented the tables and was buying champagne, how they lived. And it was that aggravation. Now, at first, I wanted to surround myself with rich people. So, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if you needed to go backstage, on stage, you wanted front row seats, you wanted to meet and greet, you wanted to play drums with Guns N' Roses, you wanted to sing on stage with Journey, you wanted to meet Elton John. If I could do those things for you, all
Mm-hmm.
I wanted was A, to be paid, but
Of
B,
course.
I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation with you. So if I could impress
Mm.
you and get you what you wanted, that was nothing more than my way into having a conversation. And over the years, I realized that successful people being successful was different to being rich. And I noticed that they were
Mm.
two different things. I know a lot of very unhappy rich people. And I know a
Mm.
lot of people that make not a lot of money, but are incredibly successful and happy. So it's a benchmark that you have to create in your mind that works for you. And so that was my journey.
That's good. I agree with you. I mean, when I was at the peak of my career as audit manager, I was like, I have everything I've dreamed of, living in Dubai, having this role, this job, this family, but I wasn't happy. And that actually led me to that aggravated mindset. I love the terminology to find why am I here? What am I meant to do? What's really the right career for me? And imagine moving from audit manager, I move into training and coaching, which I never planned nor imagined. Now, for you, Steve, how did it evolve for you to create Bluefish?
Wow.
Because, from that nightclub, how did you create it?
So you're right. We don't know. We don't know where we're going. We can
Mm.
plan, we can dream, we can desire. Hey, I would love to be this person. I'd love to do that job. But it's amazing how many people end up where they never conceived. When I
Mm.
was the doorman, I only had one goal: to find rich people in the nightclub that I could befriend and I could help. And if I
Oh.
could help you, so I invented quite simply a Trojan horse. I would do this, so I got
Uh-huh.
the chance to be able to do this with you. Um, and I thought, if I can know a lot of rich people, they will employ me. I will get a job
Mm.
with one of those. So if I was dealing with someone that owned one of the largest jewelry firms in Hong Kong, if I
Mm-hmm.
looked after you, you'd give me a job. I'd look after people that owned private jets. If I looked after you, I'd get a job at the jet charter. So I always thought
Mm-hmm.
that would be where I would end up, not
Okay.
realizing that I would end up quite simply inventing the concierge industry, which is what we did. It sounds arrogant, but that's what we did. And we were the most successful experiential concierge firm working with billionaires and millionaires literally all over the
Mm-hmm.
planet. But I never expected to do that. And then the next step happened where I suddenly realized that as this big English biker with tattoos and piercings, I'm now dealing with people and I look like this. And then the world started to get these things called websites, and everyone
Mm.
started changing who they were to a different
Mm.
person on the website. And then
Mm.
social came across. And how many times do
Uh-huh.
you meet someone or you see someone on social and then you
Uh-huh.
meet them and they're a totally different person?
That's
And
true. Mm.
we've started to create these fake personas and images online, which are complete detraction to who we actually are. So I ended up getting approached to write a book on how I branded and how I marketed and how a guy looking like me can hang around with the most affluent people in the planet. And I wrote a book called Bluefishing: The Art of Making Things Happen. And I didn't expect it to take off, and it did. And I suddenly started coaching and training and literally speaking all over the planet. I've spoken in Thailand recently, Venice, Italy, all over America and Europe. And then last year, on top of my very successful coaching program, I actually released my second book, Go for Stupid: The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. And that became a bestseller within, I think it was 4 hours. So I'm now out there trying to help people understand you don't have to look a certain way. You have to turn
Mm.
up with value. You have to turn
Of-
up as a solution. Those are things you
Mm.
should be focusing on, not your hairdo.
I love that terminology. You should focus on the value. And these books that you said, I'm gonna definitely find it. Actually, when I was doing my research, there are two books which I'm very excited to get. But maybe the big question is that how do you influence the influential? Because I think this is the one that you have mastered with your business, with your speaking, with your how. I mean, if you can give some tips, how do you really influence the influential?
I'm not quite sure I influence. Great words. I love the
Uh,
question. I don't think I influence the influential. I think I help reframe and maybe
Mm.
redirect. And the way that I do that is I become a 5-year-old. And today,
Oh.
we all think we've got the answers. We all think we're doing
Mm.
successful. We all think
Mm.
everything's going okay. And so what I do is I love the 5-year-old period of your life where nothing was
Mm.
impossible and you questioned
Oh.
everything. So when someone says to me, "Hey, I'm doing this," I say to them, "Well, that's great. But hey, I've got a question." And they go, "What's that?" And I go, "Why?" And they say, "Well, what do you mean, why?" A lot of people are doing stuff, but they never ask
Mm.
themselves why they are doing it. They're just doing it.
Exactly.
And so, what
Mm.
I try to do is I question, what are you doing? What are you doing with your brand? What are you doing with your program? What are you doing with your influence? What are you doing with your impact? What are you doing, and why? And what's the point? Why are you doing this? A
Mm.
lot of people, you mentioned it, that you were working for a company and you were very successful, you were making money, but it wasn't making you happy. So a
Hmm.
lot of people are doing things and they don't pay attention to the person that they should themselves and ask them, why am
Mm.
I doing this? Yeah, I'm doing this because I'm good at it. So are you making the money you should? Not really. Are you getting good clients or are you getting annoying clients? Yeah, what is the long-term goal here? And why is it important? You really need to question yourself. So whenever I'm dealing with anyone of any kind of profile,
Mhm.
influence, status, stature, my first question is this where you want to be? How did you get here? And why are you doing what you're doing? What is the point? And I
Mm.
question the point of where they are. 9 times out of 10, we can then end up redefining that trajectory and that point and that process and the impact they can actually put out in the planet.
I love that. I think, what I also learned, it's about always the clarity of your why, right? The clarity of your why you're doing what you do, where you want to go, because the moment you're clear about that, then it's easy to map the steps now to get there.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, I know there are struggles along the way before you built this very successful company. Can you share what is the most difficult struggle you had and how did you overcome it?
Oh, wow. So it's funny. As a big ugly biker, I was very curious. And of course, we didn't have YouTube or anything like that in the 90s. So I would literally see someone with a beautiful car and I would want to know, what did they do as a job to be able to afford that car? And I was curious.
Mm.
But I would literally walk up to them and I'd be like, "Hey, how come you're rich and I'm not?" And of course, that's not a very nice way to come across. That's not going to get you the answers you want. So I
Mm.
learned how to communicate well by first identifying that I was communicating badly. And
Mm.
every good relationship I have is the
Mhm.
benefit of learning from the bad relationships I've had. Every
Of course.
contract that I've ever written that was good has been based on the education of writing a bad contract. So the point is,
Mm.
all of those struggles are education on how not to do it. And I
Mm.
was always very much of an enabler and a collector of bad situations in order
Mm.
to make a good situation. So every time I had a bad situation happen or I had a struggle, I lost a contract, I entered into a bad client relationship, I invoiced badly, I wouldn't I wouldn't harm myself. I wouldn't negate myself. I would look at it and I'd be
Mhm.
like, well, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And I would be very inquisitive in the gold that was in those bad moments. And that used to make me positive. Great. Now I know how I did it wrong. I'm not going to do that again.
Mm.
And it would venture me onto the positivity and the outcome that I would get. And every relationship I've got I can literally thread back to the bad ones and what I learned from them.
I like what you said. I think this is like, you know what I also learned? There's no failure. It's always about when you learn something from your failure, then you're the exact story of how you use every failure,
Mhm.
to be better in communication, to make sure that the contracts are okay. So that's really, really very good in terms of looking at the perspective, right? That mistakes are not mistakes. It's how you learn from it. Now, also, Steve, a lot of people are like burnout, and they're like they wanted to start a business but they're scared, they wanted to either quit their businesses too, but they don't know what to do. Can you give advice? How did you find that, wait, this bluefish is something I want to do, this book writing, coaching, training is something that's for me?
I didn't know if it was. I remember when I wrote the book, I thought myself, no one would ever buy it, no one would ever believe it. Um, I thought my mum may buy a copy just to make myself feel good, but that was about it. But then people started asking me questions, and I realized that what I was doing that was easy and natural to me was scary to other people. And here's the daft
Mm,
thing. I noticed it was the most simple things that people avoid. If I say to you, hey, do this and this will happen, and it's very
mm,
easy, very simple, naturally we don't trust it because it can't be that simple. It can't be that easy. But if I say to you, hey, I've got a course on this and it's $25,000 and over 6 months, you'd be looking at how you could pay $25,000. Today,
mm,
the strange thing about our generation today is that we
mm.
try to pay away pain. We don't want to do the work.
Yes.
We want to buy that ticket
Mm,
and have you do it, you know? And I found that was really, really weird. So when people start approaching me going, hey, can you coach? I'll be like, I can't coach. What can I coach on? And I started speaking to a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine that were coaches like Jay Abraham and Jim Quick. And I suddenly started
mhm,
realizing that my failures were my degree in what to
mhm.
do. You know, as you say,
Oh.
we're either winning or we're
Mm,
learning. And so I started coaching people and I suddenly started realizing that I had I don't want to say a talent, but I had an insight. I had a different view. I had a different direction. I had a different challenge. And I was willing to put that on you to get the benefit out of whatever you were doing. So it was one of those things that grew. I didn't know it was going to happen, but as entrepreneurs, we harness that opportunity. Now, for all of those people out
mm,
there that you say want to start another business, you don't have to leave the business you're in to start another business. In fact, it's usually best to try something on the side just to find out two things. One, is there anyone that wants it? Because if no one wants
mm.
what you're selling, you're out of business. You didn't even start a business. So, do you provide the solution to a problem? And can you find people that have that problem? That's the first thing.
Mm,
The second
mm.
thing is you said that people are scared. Okay.
Yes. Mm,
I love fear. I love fear. But what you've got to do is you've got to reframe it. Now, think about it.
mm.
Are you scared to leave your job? Or are you scared that in 2 years' time, 10 years' time, you're still in the same job? What's scarier? Taking the risk or being in the same place in 10 years? Now, as far as I'm concerned, being in
Mm,
the same place in 10 years is terrifying. A friend of mine once said to me, the definition of hell is to meet the man or woman you could be. And
mm,
I therefore always want to take that chance. My fear doesn't stop me moving. My fear moves me and it aggravates
oh,
me into that momentum. So if you're scared about starting a new job, good. But try it on the side. See if you can sell a couple and then see if you can sell another couple. And that will start to build up momentum. And then you can drop your job.
that's a very good advice. Thank you for that, Steve. So, as you rightly said, right, create a solution, or find the people who have a problem and create the solution for them. And fear, I think I know now why you're very successful. You're very good in reframing in terms of failures. You're good in reframing about fear, because when people generally are fearful, either they, what do? They escape, right? But for you, you love fear, and you use that fear to propel you forward. Now, Steve, maybe you can also give some advice, because as you rightly said, you can have all the money but you're unhappy. Or what is your advice? So you can have, because I know that, and I learned that success is all about balance in everything, right? Success in your relationships, in your finances. At this stage in your life, what is your advice, so that, what is really the recipe for you to have success in all areas of your life?
Identification. I think you've got to
Mm,
identify what it is that actually makes you happy. Um, is it a new boat? Is it a
mm,
mansion? Is it, fancy cars? Or is it having a conversation and being proud of you being the person that you openly show people you are? A lot of people today are actually hiding behind costume, and they are not
mm,
true to not only the person that they're dealing with, because they're trying to look sexy or look intelligent or look smart. They're trying to put on such an act that they're not being true
mm,
to themselves. So, in fact, every single day they're living with a lie, and that lie
mm,
eats them up. And so I try to find out what are you? Who are you? What do you stand
mm,
for? What drives you? What
mm,
excites you? What scares
mm,
you that we can use, and how we can reveal who you actually are. And you, 9 times
mm.
out of 10, what makes people really happy is being able to show up as themselves.
Of
And the
course.
and the daft thing is, in a world where we're manufacturing lies and personas, that takes effort.
Mm.
When
Of
you take
I
the
know.
effort away, all of a sudden you turn up and you're like, right, this is me. Now let's solve something. And when you can be that blunt and refreshing, people love it. My clients, 90% of the time, the comment I get back is how easy it is for them to be them in a conversation with me.
Mm. I agree with you. It's not an easy way, right? Because for me, I cannot imagine how many coaches, how many programs, how many books for me to find out who I really am and express that. But I also learned, as you know, one of the famous quotes, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. It's really the best. I think you are very successful in many ways because you are you, and you're the best gift that you're giving to this world, so that, whatever coaching, training, or success follows you, because there's just one persona and one you, no filter. And that is something that, being authentically from beginning to now has carried you through. So that's very, very good. Now we are almost towards the end. In terms of, the changes that we're facing now, they always say there is change in digital economy. There's so much change that humans cannot comprehend, and it's scary. And I know you said before there was still no YouTube. I mean, you've been through so many changes.
Hmm.
And what's your best advice so that you can continue to thrive regardless of the environment and of the changes that you are in?
So the world has been distracted for many years. And
Hmm.
every time something comes along, it's a new distraction, it's a new distortion. We had the distortion when radio was invented, when TV was invented, when the car was
Hmm.
invented, and then when the computer was invented. So we're constantly in a moment of distortion and distraction. When you've got distortion and distraction, you've also got opportunity. Now, when the world is
Hmm.
going really well, when everything is perfect, when everyone's making money, they don't care about value because they're making money.
Hmm.
But when you're not making money, and like when you think about when you didn't have money, when you were younger and you didn't have a lot of money, when you went to the store, you were really careful what you purchased, weren't you? Because you didn't have a lot of
Mm,
money. But when you've got millions, you don't care, because waste is irrelevant to you because you got lots of money. When you've
mm,
got distortion and distraction in the planet, we go
mm,
back to going, okay, I'm not looking at the price tag, but I am looking at the value now. So is
mm,
that important? So in a world of distortion and distraction, if you always focus on your value, what do you bring to your client's economy? Now, the economy of their
mm,
mind, their relationship, their business. If you always focus on you as a value, these distortions and distractions are your benefit. Now, when we went through COVID, I launched 2 other businesses in COVID. We did incredibly well. We're still doing really well. And I live in Los Angeles, and apparently we're in a recession. But a recession causes people to not stop spending, but just to focus on the
mm.
value of what they are spending money on. So if you're all shiny with no fulfillment and with no benefit, you deserve to be bankrupt. But if you always focus on the value that you bring, you'll always be in that opportunity metrics.
I love that. Focus on the value that you bring so you will be in the opportunity matrix. Now, also, Steve, a lot of children are doubting. I remember my daughter said, "Oh, mommy, the future will be ruled by robots. What will I do? What career will I take?" And I was like, I know I can't even answer that because I don't know. But from your experience, what is the best advice that you can give to these children or even to those people who want to forge their career paths?
So can you imagine what it must have been like in the early days of humanity when the
Hmm.
caveman suddenly invented the knife, and then they suddenly invented the axe, and then they
Hmm.
invented the hammer? And I don't know if it was in that order, but you imagine everyone on stagecoaches the first time they saw a car. The
Hmm.
point is, all of these things are tools. They can be used badly, they can be used
Hmm.
wisely, but they have to be used. If I stick a hammer on the floor, it's not going to bang a nail itself. Well, I have to use it. Everything that we've got coming at us at the moment, robots, AI, interface, AR, all of these things, they're tools. If I don't turn it on, it doesn't work. If I turn it on
Exactly.
and I direct it badly, then it will do badly. So
Hmm.
the point today is the youngsters have the opportunity for more tools than we ever had. They can
True.
create greatness with more tools and opportunities than we ever had.
Hmm.
If you want to use those for bad, they will do bad. But if you have a positive mindset searching for a solution to a problem that people never envisaged could be solved, today is a great, wondrous day. So I believe today is a fantastic time. ChatGPT is a brilliant tool to
Super.
help us, not to replace us, but to help us. It gives us, when you're writing something, you're trying to help out a client, it's a great way to
Hmm.
spark ideas that then you have
Exactly.
to finish. So your
Hmm.
job is not replaced, your job is helped.
I like that. And I agree with you. I started using ChatGPT only last week, but I mean, I was so impressed by how much, productivity I had because of it. So, thank you. I learned so much today, Steve. How can people catch you? How can they buy your book? What is your next event? Because I think, you're such a, I'll say, a person filled with so much wealth of wisdom, and I love the simplicity of how you explain these things. It's a lot of coaches or a lot of people, when you speak to them, it's like you really need to still understand. But for you, it's like a no nonsense. When you listen to him, it's simple, and you can use it immediately. And so how can people reach out to you? What's the best way?
Go to stevedsims.com and subscribe to my newsletter. Go to Steve D Sims anywhere on media, whether it be LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you consume your media. Steve D Sims, D for dashing and 1M in Sims. And send me a DM. Let us know that you actually heard me here with Coach Wanda, and I'll be able to respond, and I'll ask you what you thought of the podcast.
Thank you so much again, Steve. I hope people will understand, what's possible for Steve is possible for you too. He actually has made a lot of things, turn things into reality with his aggravated mindset, with his passion, with his reframing ability. And I think understanding those concepts and applying it can definitely change your life today. So thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye.